Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fan Sports Varsity. I'm your host, Frank Langella, joined by my co-host, Marcelio Langella. And Mars, we're in week 3. I know the show is going to be a little bit different now. The last 2 weeks we have done class shows, previewing the top games for each class. But because of the holiday, we might continue this going forward. But because of the Easter holiday, we're actually going to break the show up into 2 shows. This one being for the the Thursday games that are happening. The second show is for the Saturday games. We might keep this format. We might change it. This is just something, we want to try some new things. So, how's it going, brother? And we'll dive into the show.
It's going well, man. We're week 3. We're already halfway technically through the season, and it just feels like it's a mix of a good and bad, because bad, it's flying by, and good because we're getting another week.
We're still chugging on.
We're still chugging on. And for all the teams that have lost games, it's a heartbreaker, because you just want to enjoy every game possible. And for the teams that haven't, then I can definitely applaud you for making sure everything's down pat when it comes to protocol and everything. So we just need to make sure we enjoy the season as best as possible and try to just enjoy the practice all the way up to the game.
Absolutely. I want to welcome our audience to the show. We appreciate you guys tuning in again. This is the show for the Thursday games. We might continue this trend, so it's going to be all classes, a mix of everybody. Mm-hmm. And we'll go over the games that are slated for Thursday. But if you guys want to give us a follow on Twitter, you can. Give us a follow on Instagram. If you're watching from YouTube, make sure to give us the thumbs up and to subscribe to our channel. Mars, before we get started into the games, I do want to say, COVID has been a big issue, and it's a daily grind, and teams and players have to be vigilant in trying to social distance and be careful. You can't prevent everything, right? So sometimes you're going to have an outbreak and people are going to want to pause, but just how important these games are, it only takes one, unfortunately. So you got to stay, these programs have to stay vigilant, and it takes a lot of work, and they're going to have to continue to do it. And for games that do get canceled that we talk about here, there's not much we can do, right? We produce the show on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes we get the news late. So, again, bear with us. We really do appreciate it. But, Mars, let's get into it, right? So we're talking about Thursday. Again, all the classes, but let's start with it. White Plains at Scarsdale, Yonkers Force at North Rockland, Hastings at Croton Harmon, Tuckahoe at Bronxville, Pearl River at Byram Hills, Fox Lane at RCK, Yonkers Brave at Port Chester. You're seeing a lot of double A's. Lords at Somers, John Jay's Fishkill at Arlington, and we'll talk about that. That one might be put on hold. Suffern at Carmel. All right? So we're going to go over 6 of the games, including our game of the week out of this group. And let's start with a double A matchup, Mars. White Plains at Scarsdale, both 1-1. Scarsdale and White Plains have pretty much split the series. Scarsdale is 6-5 versus White Plains since 2004. But the last time that they played White Plains, they lost in 2018, 34-14. I'll just give a weather report, Mars. They're expecting it to be in the 40s and rainy, so that's important to talk about, and we'll get into why. But White Plains defeated Port Chester last week. Scarsdale lost to Suffern. And Suffern is 4-2 at home, I believe, in the last 2+ years. But let's talk about White Plains. Okay, we'll go with the visiting team. Offensively, Marseille, that air raid attack, they've really actually developed a very potent airstrike with their quarterback, Engler. With their duel, they bring in 2 quarterbacks, Biondi. Both have contributed well. Both different style quarterbacks. Both pretty tall, but one's, is a little more mobile. The other one, Biondi, has made some nice throws as well. But the wide receiver core is what's really impressed me. We all know about Pierre. He's a stud. But guys like LaSalle, Spista, they made a lot of plays. LaSalle's caught now 2 straight games with touchdowns. They have a nice little core. And they're definitely going to test the secondary of Scarsdale. That hasn't really been tested the first 2 weeks because Scarsdale's played run-heavy teams. So we're going to, this is going to be definitely a different style for them. But I'm expecting running back McGuire to get a lot of pull on this one because I mentioned the weather. He's a very good back, versatile back that can run and catch out of the backfield. I'm expecting a heavy workload from McGuire, and I think he'll have some success. I think this could be a game where he has a breakout performance. Defensively, Mars, you're going against the option. We've talked about this numerous times, right? You got to win on early downs against the option. You got to be disciplined with your defense. Scarsdale, they run the option as good as anybody in Section 1. They've been doing it for a long time, and they will continue. You'll see a lot of Ebner Borst. You'll see a lot of, Miller at the fullback spot, and then you'll see the pitches out to guys like Higgins and Glant. So I'm expecting to see a lot like that, but win the early downs, force them in second and third and long because now you have to get them into passing situations. That's not what they're very comfortable doing, right? They're not spreading. They're going to run play action out of it. So you can start bringing some pressure with that. Marsh, what are your thoughts on White Plains?
Yeah, I mean, that one of the first things you look at is the weather report. And as you mentioned, the fact that it's going to be a little rainy and cold, it does hurt any sort of air raid, schemes. But generally, when you look at White Plains in general, I think that they have had a good mix of good quarterback play and good receiver play.
Yeah.
And I really think it really makes them a very dangerous team because of the fact that they've become very efficient at throwing the ball at a whim, really.
Yeah.
And I really think that it's for them to continue this, they need to just be efficient, right? And be efficient offensively. Always get those, short, very effective, passing game, easy completions. Make their life a lot easier. Control the pace of the game. Defensively, it's very similar to the point where you have to kind of win the early downs. You need to keep the momentum on your side. Force Scarsdale to do something that they don't like to do, which is pass. And if you control line of scrimmage, I think that will definitely aid in your game.
Yeah, and Scarsdale going to them, and they battled Suffern last week. But the biggest problem that Scarsdale faced offensively was in the red zone. They could not finish drives. And this is going to be definitely a point of emphasis because they've shown the ability to move the ball, but you got to score points, right? And they didn't do it last week, and they're going to have to do that this week. And I think, getting those long drives, those little 4-yard games, 5-yard games is going to be important because what else does it do, Mars? It drains the clock and it keeps White Plains' offense on the sideline, which is high potent. And that's a win for your defense as well. So they got to do a better job in the red zone. I'm expecting the quarterback to play, have a bit of a bounce back game because he did have a couple turnovers throwing the ball against Suffern, including in the red zone. And you can't do that if you're expected to win. So I am definitely expecting he's a good athlete, expecting a bounce back game. And I'm interested to see this offensive line. Can they move the White Plains defensive front? Because that will open things up for Miller and Glantz. So I'm looking for ball control from Scarsdale. I'm looking for them to get long drives going, drain the clock, keep the offense out on White Plains' offense on the sideline. Defensively, Mars, I mentioned Scarsdale offense doing poorly in the red zone. I thought Scarsdale defense played really well versus Suffern, and they were stout in the red zone. They made life difficult. But this is going to be a different style. They were playing against run-heavy teams. I thought they did a pretty good job against the run. Now they're going to go up against a pass-heavy team. So the secondary is definitely going to be tested. And the edge is going to be tested, right? Quarterback likes to scramble around. Once he gets on the edge, he does give you a lot of problems. So I'm expecting the outside linebackers and edge players like Potters and Lowy to really make plays. But again, I go back to the secondary. Miller, Shellen, Higgins. They got to match up with these tall, long, fast wide receivers. It's not going to be an easy task. Mars, what are your thoughts on Scarsdale?
Yeah, when it comes to offense, I mean, as we talked about when it comes to White Plains defense, the optional offenses can be very effective. It really just needs to have extended drives. You need to always have positive plays. You can't have negative ones, as we mentioned earlier. And you need to kind of utilize your scheme in really gaining the control of the line of scrimmage, right? And we kind of mentioned the fact that if you have extended drives, it kind of keeps White Plains defense on the field, which then drains them out.
Yeah.
Right? And for Scarsdale's sake, you need to have a quick game, right? You don't want to have an extended game on the side of White Plains where they can make big plays when it comes to passing or really just spreading you out, right? You want to basically control the pace, control the momentum in your favor. And when it comes to defensively, it's going to rely a lot on the secondary. I mean, as you mentioned, they've been playing a lot of run-heavy teams, and now you're going to get a taste of something else. I mean, granted, not saying White Plains never runs the ball, but the way where they're attacking is going to be to the outside, and they're definitely going to be passing a lot more than previous teams they played against. So it really is going to be a big test to the secondary and really to the front line to get after the quarterback.
That's another one, yeah, absolutely. My matchup, Mars, I got to look at these White Plains wide receivers versus the secondary of Scarsdale. I think, if Scarsdale can make some plays in those 50-50 balls, they'll give him a chance to win, but it will not be an easy task. Let's go to the B matchup, Mars. We got Pearl River 0-2 at Byram Hills. That is 2-0. Pearl River lost a close game to Pleasantville last week. Byram Hills won at Hen Hud. And Byram Hills is actually 6-4 versus Pearl River since 2004. They have won 3 straight, including the sweep, winning both of them in 2019's matchup, where they outscored Pearl River 71-27. Right, so there was some ugly matchups in 2019. But let's talk about Pearl River. They've had some tough first 2 games against Ardsley, against Pleasantville. Battled both, but ended up losing both. Offensively, they're going up against a very tough front in Byram Hills, Mars. The O-line is a little bit beat up. I know they had to move Cherstol to offensive tackle because of that when he was a tight end. So that they're going to be a little beat up. And I think it's going to be really tough to run in between the tackles on Byram Hills because of that defensive front. But what can they do, right? I think they'll, go into more spread concepts. I think they're going to try to throw the ball more. I thought they had success in both games against Ardsley and against Pleasantville throwing the football, being decisive with the ball. So I'm thinking to see a little bit more spread. I'm thinking, quarterback O'Neal, to get the quick passing game going. Get Fitzpatrick, get Donahue, and others the ball in space. Last week, they had a really bad red zone interception, so that's an important thing too. When you spread the ball out and try to throw a lot, you have to be smart with the football. You can't have red zone turnovers. That was huge last week for Pro River when they turned it over near the end of the half in the end zone. And they're going to have to protect the football if they're going to have a chance. So I'm expecting a lot of spread and to run out of the spread as well. But I think they want to try to spread out Byram Hills as much as possible because they have a lot of meat up front. And it's going to be difficult to run in heavy looks. Defensively, Mars, I thought they battled. It starts up front again. That is the strength of this team. Cheristol, Fitzpatrick on the edges, Responti, Sullivan, the linebacker. But you're going against one of the best backs in the class in Weiler. Right? So it's going to be a team effort. You got to rally to the ball, and you got to force some turnovers. If you got a couple guys on the running back, see if you can punch the ball out. You got to win the turnover battle. You got to create game-changing plays, momentum-changing plays if you're going to pull off this upset, Mars. What are your thoughts on Pro River?
Yeah, Pro River did show a lot of promise. They had a very effective way of passing the ball.
Yeah.
I thought O'Neal was it, right?
Yes.
And he did a very good job, I think, for the most part, of hitting his targets. Very accurate throws I've seen all across the field.
Whether he's junior, young guy.
Yeah, intermediate throws to the outside, passing numbers. I think that was kind of the bright spot when you look at Pro River. And when you're going against Byram, I think it's going to be you want to keep it away from the interior.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just that's a no-brainer. But I think for Pro River's sake, I think something similar to what you did against Pleasantville. The fact is that Pleasantville, not saying I'm never going to make a comparison because I'm part of the program and everything, but they have a good front, right? And what they did against Pleasantville was try to spread us out and basically try to throw those accurate throws on the one-on-one matchups. And I think that they're going to have to try to do the same thing as Byram. I think that O'Neal has proven himself to be an accurate thrower. Now, granted, as you mentioned, there were some turnovers, right? But I also feel like he was trying to force throws that just may not have been there. But if you really look at the plays, they were very, very close.
Yeah.
So that was the point. I think when you look at Pro River, they're going to try to do a very similar concept of what happened against Pleasantville. When it comes to defensively, one of the most difficult things is going to be trying to stop the top tier talent. At the end of the day, Byron's going to try to run you over, and they're going to do a lot of different ways, a lot of different looks. But you have to, as you mentioned before, rally to the ball. You have to. One person's not going to do this, and you can see it based on every week. That so far against Byram Hills, you need to have several bodies attacking the ball, attacking the flow read as much as humanly possible. And I think that's going to be the key for this game.
Yeah, and going to Byram Hills, Marcel, offensively, even without their stud wide receiver tight end Stephen Franco, they're still a handful, especially running power running football out of the spread looks with Weiler, who has 4 touchdowns in 2 games, including that 68-yard touchdown last week, and their quarterback Fruling, running behind this offensive line that has shown the ability to move people. You're talking about a 215-pound back. You're talking about almost a 200-pound quarterback. There's a lot of pounding going on from this offense, and it wears you down. And you could see that, Henhood put up a really good fight, but they just kept wailing on you, and then one big play, and that's how it opens up. That's how the floodgates open. And I'm expecting them to do the same exact thing. But they are going to go up against a really solid front. So I'm expecting Byram Hills to bring in a tight end, to bring in an H-back, Aben Marco, who's a pretty good lead blocker as well, and try to run on them and try to run off them. And then you go that play action to Ben Weinhoff, which you saw that from Head Hunt too. When he kept running, then you go play action, throw to the wide receiver, and he made some nice plays out there as well. So I'm expecting a nice balanced attack, but it all starts with the power running game with Weiler, with the quarterback Fruling. I'm expecting similar efforts by Byram Hills. Defensively, Mars, again, it's really tough to run on this defensive line and linebacker core. I think the secondary we talked about, what Pro River, we've seen good signs of, is their passing game. I think Byram Hills secondary is going to be tested. So I'm looking at guys like defensive back Tillinger, safety Fruling, who had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 last week, to be tested. And, I think it's going to be a quick passing game because if they can match up, if they can play man-to-man and have the quarterback only hold on to the ball, you're talking about a D-line that can get after the quarterback, right? Bratson, Carnivale, their outside linebacker Wheeler, they can haunt quarterbacks, and they created a lot of sacks. They created some fumbles. These guys can go after quarterbacks, and that's why if if you can get them to hold onto the ball, look for that extra second length, you're going to see that defensive line make some plays. Mars, what are your thoughts on Byram Hills?
Yeah, I mean, is it Wheeler or Weiler? Because I've been hearing.
I think I call them both. So
yeah,
don't go ahead. I think it's Wheeler.
I'm sorry, I'll call you Wheeler for today. But he's really shown off his strength and probably one of the most viewed plays on Low Hud's top 10.
That stiff arm.
Yeah, stiff arm he had, and it really was nasty. It kind of gave you some Saquon-esque type of stiff arm the man into the earth type of thing, and. At the end of the day, Byram Hills is really just going to do something simple and just try to just run over Pearl River. And I mean, they've been very effective at doing so up to this point. But the crazy thing about Byram Hills is that they have multiple facets of running the ball. I feel like when you have everyone keying on Wheeler, then you run the ball with the quarterback. Yeah. And a lot of this misdirection type of offense, which is really effective because of the fact that you have several different weapons. And your offensive line has been rocking. Yeah. So I feel like it doesn't matter who gets the ball. They just really get a good push in the line of scrimmage. Defensively, I think it's the same thing. The front seven's really been proving themselves to be very lethal and really just stuffing any sort of run play that's been coming after them. But as we mentioned with Pearl River, they might not even be trying to run the ball. They're going to try to pass the ball. So the question is going to be whether Byram Hills' secondary can actually stay tough. And it's also whether the front seven or really the front four can get to the quarterback, right? And force those quick throws or force O'Neal to make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For me, the matchup, and I talked about that nastiness of that defensive line, is this Pearl River offensive line. An offensive line that had some changes, trying to get a good group, cohesive group in front of them against a very stout defensive line. If they're going to have a chance, they're going to have to, may not win overall the battle, but they got to hold their own, and they got to make some plays on the offensive line if they're going to have that chance. All right, so let's go to a C and D matchup. Tuckahoe 2-0 at Bronxville, who is also 2-0. And boy, Bronxville has owned this matchup, Mars. They're 11-1 versus Tuckahoe since 2004. They have won 9 straight versus Tuckahoe. But it's been a while since they played them. But last week, Tuckahoe had a very impressive victory against Woodlands where they were down early and then made a nice comeback and ended up pretty much blowing them out. And Bronxville beat Dobbs Ferry in dominating fashion. So these are two teams that had impressive victories. Let's start with Tuckahoe, who I think we both can agree is the underdog in this game. Offensively, one thing that we both really like about this team is the offensive line, right? And they do a really good job of controlling the line of scrimmage, and they give the ball to their star running back, Myers, who makes plays all over the field, and he's going to have to be a huge part of this game. Everyone knows who they want to stop. The last 2 weeks, everyone knows they want to stop Myers, but Myers has still had real success, and it's because of the offensive line. It's because of the talent of Myers and his ability to do different things. I mean, he had over 100 yards rushing the last 2 games, 6 total touchdowns, Mars, including receiving, passing, and rushing. So he's done it a little bit of everything for Tuckahoe. He's going to have to be like that. He's going to have to be a magician for them offensively, but he's going to have a chance because this O-line is talented. But I do believe that the game is also going to have a heavy burden on their quarterback, Kalachiko, or Kalachicho. The pass attack to a guy like Gerald, they're going to have to play a clean game, and they're going to have to hit some big plays in the passing game. You're going to obviously try to run the ball. That's what your identity is. But you're going to have to hit some pass plays, and the quarterback is going to have a clean game, not turn the ball over, and make some plays. That's going to give them the best chance. Defensively, Mars, I think it's got to start with stopping that running back Donahue. He's a bad man. You got to stop him. And also, you got to prevent the outside runs from Randall, even on those counters. So outside runs, counters inside. Donahue brings that power with him and can hit that long home run. He's one of the best players. But Randall is kind of the lightning to Donahue's power. And they have a really good complement to each other. And obviously, the question is going to be, the health of the quarterback O'Neal for Bronxville. Because if he's not playing, it does change the dynamic of the offense. They're going to be run heavy, right? It takes a passing threat. Not completely out, but it does hurt their passing threat. So if he's not playing, you got to load up the box, right? And you got to have your linebacker Cypher lead the way with one of your defensive linemen, Reichelt. Front seven's got to be very active and try to bottle up these these running backs, because their rush attack is as potent as anybody's. If he is playing, again, I think you still have to stop Donnie. You got to get him in second to third and long down, but what does it add? It adds that quarterback run aspect that you would have just seen from O'Neal. Now it is a quarterback run with that play action pass. So it does make things a little more difficult for you because Donahue was a good athlete and could throw the ball accurately. But you still have to force them to be a passing team and to connect on a bunch of passes. because if Donahue's running down your throat, you have no chance. So that's really what's going to be for Tuckahoe, and it's going to have to be led by that front seven. Mars, what are your thoughts on Tuckahoe?
Yeah, when it comes to offensively, I really think the offensive line and Myers has just been enforced.
Yeah.
I mean, a great combination together. You have offensive line that's been moving the line of scrimmage, and Myers is just a very dynamic player, can do it all. As you mentioned, 6 touchdowns already. I mean, that's awesome. But the question is going to be, how much of a balanced attack are they going to be? I mean, Bronxville is going to then key in on Myers. And, I mean, they're not the first ones.
Nah.
Several teams have tried to stop him, but they haven't done so far. But really, to help Tuckahoe out, I mean, I would say you need to have more of a balanced attack on the offensive side, because now you'll kind of keep Bronxville, guessing what you're going to do. And I think that will definitely benefit. When it comes to defensive point of view for Tuckahoe, I mean, you need to stop the key playmakers, right? And Bronxville has several of them. And the question, as you mentioned before, is really the health of the quarterback. Because if the quarterback's not playing, then that means they're going to run the ball so much more than they've done before. Yeah. And they were already a pretty big run team. But if he is healthy, then it's going to be, just like you said, still going to stop the run. But it definitely does make it more difficult because you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think either way you should prepare for either point of view, but I think it's most in your benefit to try to stop the run as much as possible.
Absolutely. And going to Bronxville, Mars, obviously the big question I talked about is their quarterback O'Neill's health. But as you lost O'Neill, you did bring back Randall, which was a big boost to them. He's another dynamic playmaker. And if O'Neill comes back, it's going to make this offense even more potent. But let's just talk about, if he does come back, you just run a balanced attack, right? Run the ball with Donahue, run outside runs with Randall, throw to Randall, get quarterback O'Neill on the run. I mean, there's a lot of different options you can go about attacking this, but I do think Tuckahoe's front seven is the strength of their team. So I'm expecting a little more outside runs and probably throwing the ball if O'Neill's healthy. If not, right, you're going to see a lot more Donahue at quarterback, but I still think you attack on the outside, right, because you have the speed. You can run outside with Donahue, you can run outside with Randall. So, the game does change a little bit, but not too much. I mean, we got to talk about, they can hurt you in multiple ways, and Donahue's had over 300 yards rushing in 2 games for us. I mean, this guy is an absolute beast, and the offensive line deserves a lot of credit as well. We knew they were going to be a strength for them, and they have proven to be that because they're opening up holes for these guys. Defensively, Mars, you got to load the box to stop Myers. I mean, everyone's saying to do it, but I would imagine the defensive coordinator of Bronxville, that's what they're mapping out. How do we stop Myers? How do we force other people to make plays for them? So you got to stop Myers. You got to stop Chivetta, who's another guy who comes in and runs the ball. Make them a passing team. And then when you can get them in the second, third, and long, rely on your defensive front to get pressure because they showed that ability as well. When they have to force them in the passing games, those defensive line can make plays. And, with that defensive line forcing pressures and then defensive backs making plays on balls, like Kelty had a pick 6 last game. Randall's going to make some plays, right? This is going to be a tough unit to move the ball consistently on and score points again. I mean, this is the group that has impressed me more. I knew the offense was going to be good. Defensively has been the most impressive, and you got to give a lot of credit to the DC and the coaching staff. They've only got up 7 points in 2 games against Valhalla and Dobbs Ferry, Mars. So this defense has been loaded, and they've been playing that way, Mars. What are your thoughts on Bronxville?
Yeah, I mean, Bronxville, offensively, they have just so many weapons. Yeah. I think that the quarterback health is going to be important, but you do have a plan just in case if you can't play. I mean, at the end of the day, you have playmakers in Randall and Donahue, and at the end of the day, you can kind of mix and match based on their skill set where you should be attacking with each player. And I think that that's a very good thing to have. Now, granted, if O'Neill can play, I mean, that's great. I mean, that means you just opened your offense up even more. But either way, I think that they have the advantage because of the fact that the offensive line is playing well. Backs are really loaded, the momentum swinging in their direction. But it really all relies on the defense. I think the defense has been really stuffing dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, Bronxville has definitely proven me wrong. For last game, I picked Dobbs Ferry.
They let you know about it.
I got some flack for it.
They let you know about it too.
But at the end of the day, I mean, that's something that you can definitely hang your hat on. The fact that they were able to stop the dance, and I kind of made that a big deal. But I think that a mix of having a very stout defense going up against Myers, who's another very dynamic back with a very good offensive line, is going to be a test to see whether this defense is the real deal or not. I mean, granted, Dobbs Ferry win is a big one, but now you're going to also play against another team with another group of offensive linemen that are really striving with another very good dynamic back who's been dominating. So if you can stop Tuckahoe, I mean, that's a They'll let me know about it.
Yeah,
just
I'm
in
sure
case,
they will. Well, we'll see on the game picks if you finally decided to go on Bronxville's side. Which you did in week 1, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
But let's go to the next one, and it's a double-A matchup, and this is a big rivalry, but John Jay's Fishkill 2-0 at Arlington, that is 1-1. Now, unfortunately, we've received news and heard news that there may be some quarantine issues, and this game might not be played. So we will probably pick the game just in case it does get played, but I'm not going to go deep into the breakdown because I have an unfortunate feeling that it won't be due to the news that I heard. But this was a big-time rivalry, and it's a shame if this game does not get played that we won't get to watch it because these are two good programs, and I'm interested to see if, John Jay Fishkill, if they can go 3-0. They beat Fox Lane last week. Arlington lost to Carmel, and this has been a rivalry, and I was interested to see these two defenses. He's Fishkill's stout defense, run defense, versus Arlington's stout rush attack. And it's unfortunate if we don't do, but I hope that we do. But we're going to move on, Mars, because I just have a feeling I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. But let's go to the next game, Mars. This is an A matchup, Lords at Somers. Lords has not played a game yet. They were in COVID pause to start the season. Somers is 2-0. They beat Brewster last week in dominating fashion. This has been a very competitive matchup. I would like to even call this, I don't know how they feel. I think this is a bit of a rivalry too because they've been very competitive with each other in recent years. Somers is 5-4 versus Lords since 2004. Last time they played them in 2018, they did win. But again, 5-4. This has pretty much been a split between these two teams. And let's start with the Lords, Mars. I really thought before the season this group had a lot of talent, especially at the skill spot. They were bringing back their quarterback, Jorgensen. This kid's 6'4". He was very accurate in between the numbers, including intermediate throws. They had one of the most versatile pass catchers in their tight end, Rapolleya, who's a really good blocker. He could set the edge. He can catch the ball. He can line up out wide. And then I had guys that they could run the ball and attack outside. They have an athlete in Krause who could pretty much play everywhere. And he was going to be, I know, could run the ball, catch the ball, do a bunch of different things. And their running back, Salato, who ran with power. They even brought in an athlete who played a little bit of quarterback, Nigel Whitaker. They have guys. The question I always had was their offensive line, because they did lose a bunch of their offensive linemen. Who are they going to replace those guys, and can they hold up a front against probably one of the best defensive front sevens in Section 1? Forget about just the Class A, right? So one of the best front sevens in Section 1, they have to be able to hold up against them because you saw last week against Brewster, they can dominate and they can suffocate an offense. So they definitely have the skill guys to match up. The question is going to be on the offensive line. And that's what I was interested to see before the season. I'm really interested to see them. And I know they haven't been practicing, which also it brings into a tough task, right? You got to go against Somers, your first game of the year after you've missed a bunch of time is not easy. So defensively, I really think this group, again, has really strong at the linebacker spot and the secondary. When you look at a linebacker core like Gioa and Krause, they can cause issues. They could stop the run. The question is going to be on the defensive line, right? So offensive line, defensive line, the two biggest questions on this unit, because I do think they have talent. And if they could shore up those lines, I think they could be a really competitive team, Lords. I like this team coming into the season, so I'm really interested. But again, you're going against wing team Mars. You got to stop the C gaps, right? You got to stop those quarterback keepers. You got to stop those sweeps and those counters. Those are going to be big in the wing team. When you get those motion, try to shoot the A or shoot the D gap. Because that's, the wing T runs a lot of plays off series, and the motion kind of helps lead to where the plays are going some of the times, if not most of the time. And I think that's what they're going to have to key on if they're going to have a chance, because this is a bone rush attack, Mars. We both know this, but what's your thoughts on Lords?
I mean, Lords, as you mentioned in the team previews, we went into a lot of the skill positions that they have. Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of weapons on with your backs, tight end, quarterback. The question was the offensive line. Yeah. And it stinks because they haven't been able to play in any game.
Yeah, we don't know at this point. Yeah.
They don't know necessarily who is the key players to look out for. I mean, we know some the backs, but not really the offensive line point of view. But the one thing I could say about they've been in quarantine this whole time is the mental understanding of the playbook at this point should all be there. The question is really doing the motions.
Physically, yeah.
Physically doing the motions. And every coach out there knows that there's definitely a difference.
And they got to be biting to play.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's the one thing I can say.
And they're a well-coached team. Yeah. They're talking about a Walsh coach team. So
it's also how much were they able to do in the off-season. I mean, there wasn't really much of an off-season, but there were any of those times are
quarantine, right? You can't meet for 10 days.
Yeah, it's tough. But the only thing I could say is that the mental part of this, I would think they would have it down. defensively, I mean, when you're looking at what they need to do, right? The offensive line on the offense side needs to step up, and they need to kind of clear the way for a lot of these weapons because Somers' defense is going to be very, very good, as we've seen in the previous 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Their front seven's been lethal, like just stuffing everybody. I mean, remember the Mayapack game? It was bad.
Yeah. Brewster was bad.
Yeah. Like they just showed that they kind of just suffocated everybody. From the defensive point of view for Lords, I mean, there's a lot of talent on Somers' offense. Yeah. I mean, Kaiser is by himself as a guy that is a problem. And it's really going to depend on how much can the front seven really stop him from doing whatever he wants to do. Yeah. And really the D-line is going to be the question. The linebackers, we kind of projected to see that they're pretty good. Secondary projected to be pretty good. It's really can the front seven stop this offensive line and Kaiser from just pushing them over.
Getting those 4 yards, 4 yards. They get into third and short, fourth and short all day, you're probably going to lose. I mean, they'll hold the ball forever and then score, and your offense will barely get a chance to get out there, right? So that's going to be big. And going back, Mars, I do think they're going to try to test them because Brewster tried to test them throwing the ball, but again, when you can't even get a first down for like 3 quarters, it's hard to get anything going. So I'm interested to see what this offensive on Lords, what they bring out. Somers, on the other hand, right? We talk about offensively. They're not a big play offense, right? They're not going to hit you with 60-yard touchdowns. You know, it's not going to be a track meet. But what they do, they're a body punch offense, as in they just give you body punch after body punch, 4 yards after 4 yards, after 5 yards. Then they'll hit you with 12, right? But they're going to just have these long drives that just beat you up, and then by the time you get to the second half, you're worn down, and that's when the big plays come. But you're going to see a lot of Kaiser, Kasau, Deegan, Rosenway, who I thought had a very good game last week as a wingback. You know, they just hit you with the same stuff over and over and over again. But with this offensive line, you're getting 4 yards a clip. And so the biggest thing is you have to create negative plays if you just prevent negative plays if you're Somers' offense, right? Prevent negative plays because if you could just get 4 yards a clip, right, you're going to drive, you're going to hold on to the ball, you're going to keep their offense on the sideline, and you're going to wear them down. And that's been the go-to the last 2 weeks, and I think it's going to continue, Mars. I think it's going to you got to just keep doing what works, right? Don't change what just prevent penalties and prevent big negative plays. Prevent getting out of your offensive rhythm. Because if you can stay in your rhythm, there's not really, unless the defense proves it, there's not a defense that's out there to stop you. And I think that's what they're going to do. Defensively, Mars, they've allowed 7 points in 2 games. And it's because they win in the front seven. They win on the defensive line. The linebackers attack the line of scrimmage. They always want to meet the backs on the opposite end of the line of scrimmage. They do a really good job of causing penetration. And when they go into spread, when teams have gone into spread, Somers is thinking, hey, we're going to bring the heat, right? We're going to put trust in our secondary to play man coverage, to run with these receivers, and we're going to try to bring pressure on the quarterback. And I'm not expecting anything different because as of right now, first 2 games, secondary has won those one-on-one matchups. So that I'm expecting them to run. They're going to run what they run. And we're going to see if Lords can make them pay for it. But they're not, when they go out and spread, they're not going to wait for you. They're going to come after you. And I'm expecting the same thing on this, Mars. What are your thoughts on Somers?
Yeah, Somers' offense has been kind of the team that just wears you down. I mean, a lot of teams can't hang with just basically just pounding the rock, right? Like just chunk play after chunk play at a time, and really just can withstand these body blows as you're mentioning, this boxing match all game long. I mean, I feel like the defenses have just crumbled away. Over as this game goes on, they just start to cave even more. And I mean, I feel like you said, don't change it. I mean, if it's been working, keep doing what you're doing, and honestly, the offense will just keep doing this, pounding and pounding away.
A lot of down stretch.
It's not
down keeps.
No spread, magic,
sweeps, counters.
It's really just nitty gritty, wing T style, running right at you. Defensively, I mean, as you mentioned, they are bringing the heat, and the front seven's really been leading the charge on this. And I think that even when you saw spread against Mayapack, right, they were running the spread, full spread, and they were betting that they can get to you before you make a clean throw, and they succeeded. So I think they're going to see that again. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like they are confident enough in their secondary that they can say, you know what, we'll get to you with just playing man-to-man. And I feel like that, as long as that gamble is working, then the defense will be fine, right? Because on the run, they've been proven to stop any sort of run off offense that you see.
And they've proven to get you in second and third and long. So until a team starts winning first down, don't change anything. right? Mars, let's go to our game of the week. And this is a double-A matchup. Suffern 1-1 at Carmel. That is 2-0. And Carmel's 7-0 versus Suffern since 2004. And they won in 2018, 51-0 the last time they played. Before the season started, you would have thought the roles were switched, right? We thought Suffern would be the favorite and Carmel would be the underdog, given that they were young. But it's actually in reverse, right? Suffern, who did get back on track, beating Scarsdale last week. Carmel beat Arlington, and they look like to be one of the best teams in AA. So who would have thought that we'd be here? But Mars, let's start with Suffern, and let's talk about offensively. I thought the offensive line, who definitely had to go through some switches, right? There were some new players on the offensive line this past week versus Scarsdale. I thought they did do a better job, moving people than they did against Arlington. Obviously, the drop in size helped, and we talked about that. But they like to bring in the dual quarterbacks, right? Nipcon to do a little bit more of the running and the double wing stuff, and then Risco to do more of the spread stuff. And I thought they've kind of found a little more of an identity mixing in the double wing like we talked about and the spread a little bit more than just sticking with spread. But, you saw a rush touchdown by Nipcon. You saw a passing touchdown by Risco. So you saw some productivity at the quarterback spot, and it's going to have to carry forward, right? But we know what they rely on. They rely on the rush attack to set everything else up. And you're going to see a lot of Lubin, right? Lubin is the man. He's going to get a bunch of carries. It's a group effort to try to stop him because he runs downhill, and he's going to have to continue, right? Don't, against this Carmel defense that is fast and tackle well, don't run east and west, right? You can definitely want to attack the outside, but you really want to run north and south, right? You don't want to extend these plays to the sideline because of their speed and their ability to rally. So you really want to attack the hole, one cut and go, and get as much yards as you can. And you're going to need some plays out of the passing game. So my question is, who is going to step up on this offense outside of Lubin? That's the big question, right? Is it going to be Nipkin, the quarterback? Is it going to be Risco? Is it going to be Joseph? Is it going to be Chow? Somebody has to make some big plays. Someone's got to win one-on-one battles because, Lubin, as talented as he is, he's not going to be a one-man show. You're not going to beat Carmel's defense with a one-man show. So I'm interested to see how they do this rush attack, who steps up, and then they can open up the passing game because they made some plays in the passing game they didn't do in the week one, right, when they threw that pass play to Beninati and then, to Joseph. So they're going to have to attack. But another thing that really has hurt Suffern these first 2 weeks, Mars, penalties. They've had a lot of penalties. They brought back, I think, 3 touchdowns last week off penalties. Penalties have been killing this team, and they have to shore this up because it is really hurting this offense, the penalties. Defensively, Mars, I thought they were really solid in the red zone. I thought they were tough to run on. They forced some turnovers, but it all starts with them tackling well, right? Carmel does a really good job of making people miss. They do a really good job of attacking the edge, and they even show the ability now to run downhill. So you're going to have to win by rallying to the football and by attacking the line of scrimmage. You cannot wait for these blockers to get to you. You cannot be indecisive. Know your reads. Attack the line of scrimmage. Meet Carmel on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage is going to be big, Mars. I'm expecting them to load up the box, right, and try to stop this downhill running attack. And if they go into the spread, they have to key on Dahl outside runs because he has really hurt teams the first 2 weeks on outside runs. So I'm interested to see what this defense does, loading the box when they come out with tight ends, Mars. But what are your thoughts on Suffern?
Yeah, Suffern, in my opinion, has definitely improved since week one. The week one debacle was definitely something that we didn't expect to happen. Yeah. And I think that the offensive line has gotten better. I feel like the defense has also gotten better. I think that the question, as you mentioned before, was, are they going to Lubin's definitely the key player, but is it going to be more than just him that adds to this offensive offensive movement going forward? Because if you're just going to rely on Lubin to kind of move the offense, north and south, I just don't see it working out so well. You need to have more than just one guy because defense is going to key in on him, and everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows that he's a talent, but it needs to be a group effort. And I think that kind of having a good mixture of both different schemes, whether it's double wing, as you mentioned, or spread, I think that's a good thing to do because Carmel's now going to have to practice more against different looks that you have. When it comes to defense, I feel like the defense has definitely improved since week one for sure. And I think that the keys to success, as you mentioned, are going to be to rally to the ball, play aggressive, attack the line of scrimmage as much as possible, and it might just be efficient, right?
Yeah.
Tackle. You need to make sure you tackle well, because Carmel's proven to make people miss, but also just run right over you, and just very, very elusive backs we've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to Suffern's offense, I did do a breakdown on Suffern's offense and how you're going to see some Lubin, but you're also going to need some of the other guys to make some plays for this team. For this video, we're going to talk about Suffern's offense and the pressure that they could put on a defense, and some of the playmakers are going to have to step up for them to have a chance to beat Carmel outside of Lubin. And we'll go over a couple plays, but let's just start off with Lubin. Obviously, Lubin is a big part of their offense, and they're going to come out in multiple different sets, whether it's double wing, whether it's spread, or whether you're going to see right here, which you saw last week, Lubin at the quarterback spot. And Suffern is at its best when its offensive linemen are getting good angles, blocks, down blocking, pulling and kicking people out. And here's one of the examples, right? I mentioned Lubin's at the quarterback spot. They're going to run a quarterback power practically, right? But you're going to see down blocks by these tackles. That's where you see the movement. You're going to get these lead blockers as backs in front of them. You want to get Lubin in space because he's really difficult to tackle one-on-one, right? But this is where Suffern's at his best, running downhill, getting good angle blocks. Look at the push that they got right there. Right? Go back really quick. Again, look at the push that they get up front. Those are the angles you want. Now you get Lubin one-on-one in space. That's bad news for a defense. Again, there's a stiff arm, and then look at him just hurdle someone into the end zone. Let's go to another play. Again, for them to beat Carmel, it's going to have to be more than just Lubin. And you saw some of that last week versus Scarsdale. Okay, here's a great play that Suffern used last year that worked really well. Right, they're going to fake a run to Lubin. Quarterback's going to keep it. They're actually going to get a trap block on the outside. Right, but again, you're going to see down block by the tackle, kick out block by the guard. Getting good angles. This is where Suffern is at his best. And look at the fake right here. Both linebackers, because everyone's keen on Lubin, they both step in that direction. That opens it up for everybody else. But they got to make plays. Look at the offensive line. Look at this block. Look at the kick out. It opens it up. And look at the quarterback making the play. This is huge. And now he's off to the races. They need other people to make plays for them. Let's go to the final play. Again, you're going to see some double wing as well. This time, Lubin's going to be blocking. He's at the right wing. They're going to run a pitch sweep to him. Right? This is Lubin making plays in more than one facet, not just running the ball. And he's going to have to. Right? But another guy, Joseph. But I like this. Carmel rallies to the ball really well. So you don't want to run out to the sideline. Okay? Because they're fast, because they tackle well, because they rally well, you want to make one cut and go. You could still attack the edges, but make one cut and get north and south on this team. And this is a good example of that. Look at them make one cut and look at them go. Right? Get as many yards as you can. One more time. Again. One cut and go. Don't run out to the sideline. Don't extend plays too much when it's not there, because that's how Carmel can hurt you. If some of these players can step up, Suffern will have a good enough chance to win this game. All right, Mars, let's move to Carmel. And, obviously, they've been one of the most surprising and impressive teams that we've seen this year. And offensively, what most impressed me the most was their ability to run with power. Bringing in tight ends and bringing in the fullbacks against Arlington. And really the first 2 weeks. Because I thought with the inexperience on the offensive line and the young backs that it was going to be difficult to run downhill. But they have proven me wrong with that. And I've been really impressed with their fullback, Rosa Forte, their tight end Fusco, especially last week, and that offensive line. They are moving people. And running downhill with their guy Massey, who, boy, did he have a great week last week. Multiple touchdowns, he even threw a touchdown. This creates this offense, makes this offense much more dynamic if they can run with power efficiently, because now it opens everything up, right? Now they go into their spread, it opens up the outside runs, it opens up the jet runs, it opens up the quarterback keepers for this offense. And we've seen Dahl really attack the edge of a defense really well, especially running the ball. He's been a menace on the edge, but it definitely sets it up better if they can run heavy look. And you saw those heavy runs work against Suffern. Arlington did it, right? So if they could do that, if they can run with power, that could be a similar formula that they could attack Suffern with. And that's run with power and then attack the edge off of that with the quarterback runs and the play action pass. I'm expecting to see similar to set up. Not exactly the same formulas because Carmel does different formations than Arlington, but I'm expecting a similar script that you've seen the last 2 weeks, and it starts with running with power and then getting to the outside. Defensively, Mars, this defense is technically sound. They tackle well, like I talked about, and they just rally to the ball. I mean, every time you see a ball carrier get tackled, there's at least 3 or 4 bodies on that guy. They do a really good job rallying to the ball, and I've been really impressed with the defensive line, who has shown the ability to handle large offensive linemen and not get moved off their spot. It's allowing these linebackers to use their range and attack the line of scrimmage because they're not bodies in their face. They've been holding their own strength-wise, and I've been really impressed with the defensive line. Obviously, the biggest thing they're going to do is to try to stop Lubin. And Lubin's going to come out, and they're going to come out in the double wing. They'll put him on the wing and spread. He'll be the single back, and they'll even line him up at quarterback and take direct snaps. Right, so expecting a heavy dose of Lubin, and I'm expecting Carmel to load the box, especially if Lubin's at quarterback or in the double wing, or even if Lubin is the single back in spread. I think they're going to man up defensively and try to bring pressure at the line of scrimmage, whether it's blitzing or whether it's putting men in the box to stop Lubin and force Suffolk to be a passing team. And why not? Because, when you look at this secondary, guys like Trevor K, which, not Todd K's playing out there. Trevor K is playing out there. Rosafort, Fiore. They have secondary guys who can play man coverage. And they have secondary guys who have proven when, if Carmel can win first down and get you into second and third and long, they can bring some pressure. And if they can bring some pressure and play some man-to-man, that's what causes turnovers. And Carmel has done that over these last couple of weeks. The defense has been very impressive, Mars. What are your thoughts on Carmel before we go to a breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, Carmel has been proving us wrong
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And, one thing I could say is that when seeing how effective Carmel's been running downhill against a lot of these the first 2 weeks, it means that they can do that against mostly to anybody. Yeah. I think doing what they did against Arlington is a very big statement to make across this whole entire section, and showing because a lot of people, including us, were saying that Carmel will get better as the season progresses because they're a young team. But it feels like
Carmel's good now.
Yeah, it feels as if they are ready to keep rolling and even put their names in the section title race type of conversation. And I think it all really starts with how well the offensive line's playing, really just moving people. I mean, you have a lot of backs that can really make plays and are very elusive, but I really think the offensive line is just changing the game. I mean, that was the big game changer for Carmel Rams because we were saying that they were going to be young, right?
Yeah.
And they might be inexperienced, but the fact that they're proving us wrong on that front now just changes everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to defensively, I really think that they've been very sound. I mean, they've really stuffed. I mean, they stuffed Arlington, which is a very difficult thing to do.
They stuffed the run.
They stuffed the run specifically. Yeah. And I mean, Arlington was we said probably one of the best offensive lines in AA.
Yeah.
And the fact that they did what they did is very dangerous. And I think looking at Suffering, you're going to have to follow the same idea, same formula of trying to stop Lubin, right? And if they can stop Lubin and force Suffering to have to throw the ball, as you mentioned, having a good secondary like Carmel has, it favors them.
Yeah.
And I really, it's very impressive what they've been able to do.
It is, and it's interesting to see if they can continue that. Obviously, the matchup for me to watch, going back to the running game and the power running game of Carmel, is that running back Massey versus the linebackers of Suffern. But before I go to the player to watch, I do want to go to the breakdown of Carmel, and I did it on their defense and how if they can win first down, they can create some uneasy situations for Suffern. For this video, I'm going to talk about Carmel's defense and how they've been really impressive. And for them to be successful against Suffern, they really got to win on early downs and get them into second and third and long. And they've done a good job of that the first couple weeks of the season. And I'm expecting a similar effort this time around. But let's talk about it. Arlington's coming out. Again, they have a tight end. They're bringing an H-back. They're going to try to run some power football. And I'm expecting Suffern to do something similar. And what makes Carmel so interesting is that they win at each level. They win at the defensive line spot. They have linebackers that attack the line of scrimmage. And they have secondary that's going to be involved and can play man-to-man. All three of these phases make this defense very good. So I mentioned the power running game, right? Carmel's going to come out and 8 men in the box to stop it. But I really want you to focus in on the defensive line at the point of attack and the linebacker. Okay? they're going to try to run some power ball. They're going to get a double team to the linebacker. They're going to get this H-pack right on this defensive end. They're going to get a kick-out block. But watch these guys hold their own. Watch them hold the line of scrimmage and not move the point of attack. I mean, look at this. The line didn't move at all, even with a double. And go back really quick. Watch this linebacker. Look at him attack the line of scrimmage. He's not waiting. He reads and he attacks. I mean, there's nothing there. It's a good job. Again, don't wait. Defensive lineman holding up linemen that they will prevent to get to the linebacker. Let's go to another play. Again, look at this spread look. Similar to what you've seen from Suffolk. Okay? They're going to run downhill again. But watch the linebacker. Watch the defensive line at the point of attack. They do not wait. They rally. They attack the line of scrimmage. They anchor down and don't get moved. Again, look at this. I mean, they're pushing the line of scrimmage to the backfield. This is a really good job. Look at the linebacker. Because he read it so quickly, because he attacked the line of scrimmage, didn't even give that tackle a chance to make a play. Look at that. And even though there was a missed tackle, they rally so well that someone will make up for it. Right? The linebacker misses, but look at the DN. Close it. Finally, when they get him into second and long, third and long, and they have to go in passing situations, that's when Carmel's going to bring some pressure. That's when they're going to man up. And this secondary has done a really good job of playing coverage and attacking the football, taking good angles. Okay, you're going to see the defense right here. Offense is going to run all slants. Defense is actually going to run a twist stunt with the linebackers. You're going to have these D tackles go B gap. These linebackers flying through the A gap. Arlington actually runs a smart play. They run slants, right, to replace where the linebackers are, and then they're going to belly out the back. Okay, this should work. Right, but look at the pressure. Look at the man-to-man coverage. Look at the safety reading the quarterback and taking away his first read. Look at the DN. Running back crossed his face. He went out with him. I mean, there's nothing there. That's just great defense at every level. Right? Everyone's accounted for. And there's pressure. He's got to rush it. Good man-to-man. That's good stuff. If Carmel can play this technically sound, rally to the ball, and win on early downs, they can cause some serious problems for Suffolk. All right, Mars. The player to watch for me, I got to go with Clevemer Lubin, right? The running back and defensive end. He's going to have to make plays on both sides of the ball. This is a big game, and big players come in big games. So I'm interested to see how he plays. I know he's a stud. He's going to have to play like one if they're going to have a chance to win this game. You ready to go to our game picks, Mars?
Yep, I'm ready to roll, man.
Again, we're both hitting over our 55%, and we want to continue that. We want to actually get better, right? I mean, we are hitting the 55, but we want to be better than 55. So let's get to it, Mars. We'll pick all the games, even the ones that we didn't go into deep content with. Let's start with our AA matchup. White Plains 1-1 at Scarsdale. We did break this game down, Mars, and I'm going with Scarsdale. And listen, I said it. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be in the 40s. Not great for a throwing team, right? And White Plains is proven to be throwing. I do think McGuire, they're going to give more of the ball to McGuire, and he is going to have a good game. But interesting note, Mars, White Plains is 5-6 on the road in the last 2+ years versus 9-0 at home. White Plains is a different team on the road for whatever reason versus at home. And I think that trend will continue. I'm going with Scarsdale.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Scarsdale as well. I think that the weather definitely does alter the prediction. I think that I was originally leaning towards White Plains, but looking at the weather report definitely does hurt the passing attempts that their White Plains is going to have. I think that favors Scarsdale a lot more because they can now not only just control the momentum, but control the pace.
Next game, another AA. Mars Yonkers Force 0-1 at North Rockland, who is 1-1. Listen, I'm going to go with North Rockland. They had a really nice double overtime victory last week, but what makes this team rock is their defense and their ability to stop the run. And they've done a pretty darn good job the last couple weeks. And their young players have been stepping up on defense. And they made some plays at the end, including that 2-point conversion that won them the game last week. And I also want to look at their quarterback, Mateo Rodriguez. He had 3 touchdowns, I believe, last week. This guy has been making some plays for this offense. And North Rockland looks very different, Mars. This ain't a ground and pound North Rockland. They spread you out and throw the ball, and the quarterback runs. This is a quarterback-heavy offense. And I think they're going to do a lot to stop their Yonkers Force's big back in Jackson, who is a house, by the way, and he runs downhill. But I don't think it'll be enough, and North Rockland's going to win. Yeah,
I'm going to stick with North Rockland, too. I think the defense is really what's impressed me. I mean, you really look back at first game against John Jay, right? John Jay is a powerhouse, and what they were able to do against John Jay really shows you that their defense is stout. And against RCK, very close game, a battle.
Yeah.
And they just came out on top. And I really think that this momentum that we see in North Rockland is just going to carry over.
Next game, let's go to the Independent League. Mars Hastings 2-0 at Croton Harmon, who didn't get to play last week due to a COVID issue. Listen, I thought Croton Harmon rallied in their first game versus Irvington. I like the way Grease played on both sides of the ball. Croton Harmon is definitely an improved team and a gritty team, but I'm going with Hastings, Mars. That pass attack by Kennedy and to Ratirorti and the Capuanos is a tough attack. They were really impressive the last couple of weeks. I know they only scored 1 touchdown 2 weeks ago, but the last time that Hastings had 3 wins in a season, Mars, 2011. I think this week they match that and get their 3rd win of the season.
Yeah, I'm also going to go Hastings. I really like the fact that they have this very multiple facets of kind of scoring and moving the ball around. And the fact that Croton Harmon, is going to kind of come into a bad situation, having, the kind of, have those
game got canceled last week.
Game got canceled. They have more time, not being able to practice. I think it's just a lot of the scenarios are just not favoring Croton Harmon in this situation. I think Hastings is going to have the advantage on this one.
Also, before I go to the next game, Honecker, who is a real stud for them defensively, he got hurt at the end of the game last week. I really hope he plays because that guy is a menace. And if he's playing, I do like Hastings' chances even more. Mars, let's go to our CD matchup. Tuckahoe 2-0 at Bronxville, who is 2-0. Again, this is a really interesting matchup, but I am going to go Bronxville, Mars. I'm sticking with Bronxville, and it's because of this defense. This defense is the game changer for me. They have been sensational, and they deserve a lot of credit. They win at each level, defensive line, linebacker, and in the secondary, and that is going to be the difference. I don't think they shut down Myers, but I think they stop them enough to force other guys to make plays, and they'll force a couple turnovers. I'm going Bronxville.
Myers is definitely a guy that can really open up the game, and this offensive line is just stout. And part of me wants to say that Tuckahoe is going to win this game, but I really think Bronxville is going to be the ones to do it. And as much as this misconception that I am an anti-Bronxville person, I'm picking Bronxville here, and it's because of the fact that they've proven to be able to shut down rush attacks on several teams, specifically Dobbs Ferry, who is a very good run team.
Yep.
I mean, having to stop the Dans in the way they did definitely does open your eyes to kind of being able to do more. And not saying that this is a guarantee win for Bronxville. I mean, I could see this being a very close game, especially because Myers is a very dynamic back and this offensive line is very good. But I just think it favors Bronxville, in my opinion. I think they're going to pull off the win here.
Let's go to the B matchup. Pro River 0-2 at Byram Hills 2-0. Can Pro River pull off the upset, Mars? Go ahead, man.
I think Byram Hills is going to be the winner here. I think Byram Hills has a kind of, they're on a roll, right? They have a lot of talent on their roster. Their front seven is doing very well. And I just think their defense is a scary force to deal with. And I think that they're going to kind of rely on Wheeler as much as possible. I mean, he's proven to be a very, very, very good back.
Yeah.
I mean, he just imposes his will. And I think Byram Hills is going to kind of, not coached, but it's going to be a very easier game compared to their previous ones, just because of the fact that they're just in this rhythm. Yeah.
Pro River has been tough. They grind it out. They battle you. I think it's going to be another tough, gritty performance. But I am going to go with Byram Hills as well, Mars. Whaley and Fruler are a duo that have been deadly. I'm interested to see the health of Stephen Franco. But, again, the winner for me is this defensive front. They know how to put pressure on quarterbacks. They know how to stop the run. They know how to sack the quarterback. And that's going to be tough for a team that probably wants to spread it out and throw the ball more. Mars, let's go to another AA matchup. Fox Lane 0-2 at RCK, who is also 0-2. This one is a close, even matchup for me. I like the way Fox Lane responded last week, battling a tough John J.'s Fishkill team. Defense definitely improved and played the way I thought their defense could play. But I'm going with RCK. The thing that worries me about RCK, they need to find more explosive plays. But I did think they added a little bit of speed at the quarterback spot, implementing Camacho there. And, I do think they're going to win with their size. I do think they have good size. They can run downhill a little bit. And that defense does a good job of creating some pressure. So the defense, I think, is a solid, really solid defense. And they got hurt, RCK, with the quarterback run a lot. When spread you out and run it, I don't know if Fox Lane has that same dynamic that can hurt RCK the way North Rockland did. And that's why I'm going to go with RCK.
I think I should go with Fox Lane on this. I think Fox Lane is a very, very scrappy team. Yeah. And I really think, just like RCK in a lot of sense, I just think that Fox Lane is kind of just set to explode. I think they're ready to kind of make the leap and really show how much they're ready that they've improved. I think as you watch them as the season progresses so far, they've gotten grittier and grittier. And I think that this game is really going to be the culmination of kind of adjusting their offensively and defensively schemes to kind of just be able to be successful on all fronts. I think Fox Lane is going to take this one.
For me, the next game, Double A again. Yonkers Brave hasn't played a game yet. 0-0 at Portchester, who is 0-2. I think these two teams are running option against each other, Mars. I'm going to go with Yonkers Brave. I think that obviously they missed a bunch of time. I think they're probably frothing at the mouth to play. I think you're going to see a better, a well-coached team. And I think it's going to be a really close, low-scoring game. But I think Yonkers Braves makes a couple more plays and wins this game.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Yonkers Brave, too. I feel like, the downside is not being able to practice, right? Yes. And not being able to play those games. But the positive side, the only positive I can come across this is that injuries. There's not really a lot of injuries. And this is week 3. You see some teams have those injuries already. And, the muscles are sore. They've beat up a little bit. Yonkers Brave has been completely clean, right? Yeah. And now they're going to be full energy, full enthusiasm, full aggressiveness coming to this first game of their season.
Yeah, it's a good point. Let's go to the A matchup, Mars. Lords hasn't played a game either. They started the season on the COVID list at Somers. I'm going to go with Somers. I know these two teams have been very competitive with each other. I know Lords is a well-coached team, but they have not practiced, Mars, and they're coming right up, again, playing on a Thursday. You'd rather have played Somers on a Saturday. You missed a bunch of practice. You're going against probably one of the best teams, in my opinion, the best team in A so far. This is a tough first game. And I think Somers is just a little too much. I think they're a little too dominant up front. And I don't know if, again, when you talk about building an offensive line and creating synergy, it's hard to do that against an elite front right off the bat, Mars. I'm going with Somers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Somers, too. I feel like they're just on a roll. Their defenses have been stuffing everybody. Yeah. Their offense has been running over everybody. And I just feel like they're in this groove where their front seven and their offensive line have really just been paving the way for all these talented players that they've had. Now, the only thing that I could say is that if Somers changes up their scheme and starts going to a more spread look, then that would be not the brightest idea.
That would mean Lords is winning up front.
Yeah.
If that happens.
Yeah. I just think that for Somers, I think they can pull off this win if they just consistently follow with the scheme that they've been doing so far, which is just run heavy, use a lot of Kaiser, and let this offensive line push the sled.
Again, I'm not very confident in this Double-A game that is going to happen, but let's talk about the rivalry just in case. John Jay's Fishkill 2-0 at Arlington. That is 1-1, Mars. I'm going to throw something very interesting at you, okay? We'll pick this game just in case. But when O'Hare got there, I believe it was 2010. From 2010 to 2015, John J. East Fishkill won this rivalry matchup 8 out of 9 meetings, Mars, including 8 straight victories. But when Coach Morano came in 2016, if you look at 2016 to 2019, Arlington has won 3 of the last 5. Again, this game is expected to be 40s and rainy. I'm going to go with the team that runs the ball better, and that's going to be Arlington. I think Arlington wins this game. Listen, East Fishkill is a very well-coached team, and they tend to win close games because of their coaching and because of some of the big plays by some of their individual players. Really like the way the defensive line and the linebackers are playing. But I do think Arlington runs the ball a little bit better, and I think Arlington bounces back if this game is being played from getting beat up by Carmel and try to rebound and make a statement that they're one of the better teams, Mars.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Arlington, too. I feel like the Carmel game definitely has poked the bear a little bit, because the fact is Arlington was definitely not favored by a lot. Carmel was not favored by a lot of people. No. And what Carmel did to Arlington was kind of shed a lot of light on really, some of the weaknesses that Arlington may have. But I think they're going to bounce back from this. And I think that when you look at the past, John Jay's dominated, right? Yeah. What was the stat? You said it was since 20... From
2010 to 2015, they won 8 of their 9. 8 but of 2016 to 2019, Arlington's won 3 of the last 5.
8 of 9. That's domination. But, as you mentioned, Morano comes in, it's become even, right? And I think this is going to... you said 2 and 3?
Arlington's 3 and 2.
3 and 2. I think that now they take even more of an advantage of this one, just because Arlington, as you mentioned, has a better rush attack. And I just think that John Jay's Fishkill's offense has been not as explosive. They're trying to find their identity. And I think that Arlington's going to take advantage of that and really just key in on some of their mistakes they made against Carmel and just fix those things. That's if the game is played.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's go to our game of the week. Mars Double-A suffering 1-1 at Carmel. That is 2-0. Caramel's now become the big dog, and the question I have for you, and you'll pick this game first, you're going to go against Caramel a third straight time? Is Suffering going to get this big victory and get back on track?
Well, here's the thing. Suffering has, Clever Lubin, right? He is a talent amongst talents. He is a stout linebacker.
Yeah.
Running back can make a lot of plays, and they do have a lot of key pieces on this offense that definitely can move the ball a lot. Then you look at Carmel. A lot of young players on this team can definitely show. They show their explosiveness, they show their elusiveness, and they show the fact that they can attack you downhill. And looking at Carmel the past 2 weeks, I went against them for the reasoning of them being young. But I'm going to pick Carmel. I'm going to pick Carmel for the purpose of they've really proved me wrong twice. And, to make me look bad 2 weeks in a row on the picks, and every time I kept saying that they'll get better as the season progresses, they have already looked good. And they're a top team in AA for a young squad out there. And I think I might have made this point in our team previews, is that technically when you look at season starting in spring, a lot of these young guys are not necessarily they're older young guys now. They actually look like guys that are going into their senior year, and I think that kind of is benefiting Carmel in that sense. And I think that they look very prepared. They look like they're ready to roll, and they look like they haven't missed a step since last year. So I really think Carmel is really setting themselves to be a top team in AA, and I think they're going to win this game.
Suffering again. I definitely think they took a step in the right direction, but too many penalties. And with the question of who else can make plays on this offense besides Lubin is going to lean me towards Carmel. I think Carmel is going to scheme, try to stop Lubin. It won't be easy. It'll be a team effort. I think Suffering will make some plays in this game. But I do think Carmel has proven that they can win multiple ways. And that's what gives them the edge to me, because the defense rallies, the defense tackles well. It's not easy to have big plays off of Carmel. So you're going to have to get these long drives, and you're going to have to be able to throw the ball. And Suffering hasn't proven to me yet that they can do that. And that's why I'm going to go with Carmel, And again, I've been very impressed with this group. I am interested to see, though, from being the hunter versus the hunted, Carmel they're no longer the underdogs, right? Carmel's now the big dog, and teams are going to be coming for them. So how do they react? You got to know how to win. You got to know how to lose. I'm interested to see what they act like, how they play, being as a top dog. So that's going to be interesting to me, but I'm going to go with Carmel on this one. All right, everyone, that was our show. I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in. Again, we have our second part of the show is going to be on the Saturday games. This one was on the Thursday games. I want to thank you all again, and we'll see you all very soon.